Okay, it seems like we are live. I'm going to let the world of these social media algorithms announce it
Okay.
in three, two, one. Great. Okay. All right. So while everyone comes in here, hello, everyone. My name is Jake Sussman. I'm the founder of Superpower Mentors. And every single week, I bring on some very interesting leaders and individuals that are in the world of neurodiversity. So this week, we actually have someone really cool coming on. Her name is Christine Kerpiel from Smart Kids with learning disabilities. Smart Kids is one of the most renowned organizations in Fairfield County, Connecticut, but they've expanded throughout the country, providing different resources and events for parents and individuals with learning differences, spreading awareness. And Christine here does events and partnerships and coordinates all these great things. So I'm going to let her take it away. Today, we're going to really go in on what is Smart Kids as a resource for parents, and also talking a little bit about what it's going to be like to have a successful summer to get ready for this transition. So Christine, welcome. So glad I have you on here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Jake.
Yes, it's my pleasure. So tell me a little about Smart Kids. What is Smart Kids?
So Smart Kids with Learning Disabilities is a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2000 by Jane Ross as our executive director. And she was a parent of a struggling reader. Took her 3.5 years to figure out what was wrong with her kid. Like, this is the story we all hear, right? Just takes forever. And then, what processes or what supports does he need to succeed? So after that experience, she founded Smart Kids and, to really help other parents through the same situations, which we hear over and over. So, make it easier with resources. We have an extensive website. Just over all the years we've had the website, it just keeps putting more information on there. And you can search anything. You can search by learning difference, or you can search by some other keyword, or if you're looking for evaluations or an IEP, whatever it is. We have everything from, first steps, like I think something's wrong, through I need an evaluation, or what should I ask for my IEP, or, transitions to college and all of that. So we really cover everything. And we also have a monthly newsletter. So it gets delivered right to your inbox, and we feature three key articles every month. This month, we've got some great ones talking about college kids, teaching teens life skills, and also an article about when college isn't the next step. It's like, what's your path? How do you help your teen find their path to success? And then another one on audiobooks, like how great they are for kids with learning differences. So there's just amazing amount of resources on the website and the newsletter. And then we have a weekly blog too, that you can follow on Instagram, or you can subscribe, and that has some great information too.
That's so wonderful. We work with so many parents, and trying to find the right resources is something that's often, it's anxiety inducing. It's like, how do I know? What do I do? Right. And for parents, and I know that you're a parent, and I want to kind of get into that in a minute, but, so many parents, when it comes to their kids, they just want their kids to be happy, independent, to be able to function. And when your child is diagnosed with ADHD or dyslexia or whatnot, you don't know what that future can hold in that path. So where do I go? And to be able to have a resource like Smart Kids is something that is, it's important.
Yeah, and it is, and that's what we hear a lot from parents. It's like, somebody understands. Like, it's just a place of parents who understand, right? And that's a lot of that support is like, I just want to be heard. Like, I just want someone to know what I'm going through, and that's a lot of the support we provide as well. But because it could be a really lonely place. I mean, you talked about like newly diagnosed. Wow, that was a lonely place in the beginning for me and a lot of parents. So yeah, to come out on the other side of it, which I want everyone to know that you will, is important.
So you were just mentioning about your experience. obviously everyone has a story and a why, right? And to do this work it takes a why. It's very emotional,
Yeah.
it's we're often finding ourselves beating up against the wall. So tell me, your experience was what brought you to Smart Kids.
So I have a neurodiverse child who is now 18. So, I knew from he was in birth to three, I knew early on that something just was different. Um, and that was a long journey. But, I had known about Smart Kids probably when he was in middle school. I'd heard about them, went to a conference, and I just thought, oh, this is fantastic. And then, went along my merry way. So a few years ago, when I saw they were looking for help, I was like, it's like my calling, just
Yeah.
to help this organization and help other parents. And I was really, I'm super involved in the PTA through all the schools, elementary, middle, high school. And that was how I kind of got a lot of resources, like
Yeah.
really, connected with the superintendents and the teachers. And that's important too,
But
to be
that's
able
not,
to
I mean,
be a
like that took a lot of confidence though. Like, like what was that moment when you first found out that your child was diagnosed? And was it like immediate, like I jumped into action, or was there a moment of,
No,
sort of
there's
like,
a
yeah,
I want to say that reckoning's not the right word. There's a time of you have to get accustomed to it, right? Like you have to learn to accept everything and look at it in a different way. Like you have to overcome your own kind of mental preconceptions, right? Like a little bit in the beginning. And then you have to go just like, oh, I'm going to put all that aside and I'm not going to believe the things that everyone else says. And I'm going to go with my gut and believe in my kid. And we're just going to keep moving forward a little bit at a time. Like, right? Every day is another day and we're going to figure this out. But yeah, I mean, I just told this story to somebody recently. I said, I put him in a preschool when we first moved to Connecticut. It was a wonderful preschool. And 6 months in, they called me in for a meeting, and they said, "Well, we're not quite equipped to deal with your son." I said, "Why? What's going on?" And they're like, "Well, he kind of just does his own thing, and he won't do circle time. So, he needs to be somewhere else."
hmm,
And so, and this was 6 months. I'm like, "You've wasted 6 months of such an important time in his life. You could have told me this after a week." So that's always something like that. You hear parents talking about that this craziness happens. Some teacher says your kid's lazy, right? Or he's just not smart enough. Or there's always these things that happen where you're just like, whoa, and that kind of puts you in battle mode or whatever. You're really start becoming a stronger advocate after stuff like that. So I
right.
think that kind of, happened. That was kind of the point that made me jump off and went,
And
okay,
but you chose to do something about it. You got involved. You got
yes.
involved. Is that something that you recommend to parents? Like get involved?
Well, you have to at some level, right? If you've got a kid with a 504 or an IEP, like you're involved, on some level. You've got to be talking with teachers, you've got to be talking with administration to get the right things. You don't always, they may tell you one thing and it might be fine, but may not be the full story for your kid. Maybe your kid
Yeah.
needs something else or a little more, right?
Yeah.
So you always have to be there advocating until you can teach your child to advocate for him or herself. But yeah, so at some level, you're always involved. Yeah, I just found it easier to go a little further with that because I found it more of a partnership. Like if I'm doing volunteer work and stuff like that for the school, sometimes they'll help me a little more. It's a give and take kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Look, it's already the end of May, which is crazy.
Yeah,
For a lot of families, we have another 15 days or so left of school,
yeah,
15, 20 or so days. And I think a lot of parents are checked out, right? Everyone's kind of just
yeah,
hanging on for dear life
right,
to get to the finish. Um,
right.
one is, what advice would you share with parents trying to get to the finish? But also, I want to shift us to talking about the summer and what that looks like. So we'll
Yeah,
go into those two things.
good thoughts on summer. So, um, the first part was how to get through the rest of the year.
Yeah, like we gotta hang on. We're strapped in.
I know, I know. You know, you just don't want to lose steam. I have an 18-year-old, you know, and there's that senioritis, but it's nice that the school does a program for internships, so it kind of like makes them re-engage on a different level. And maybe that's a trick, re-engage on a different level. What else can you do? You know, you've talked about finding your passions and your interests. Is there something that will spark just to get to the end of the year? Like, I don't know, you know, something like that. You got to find that motivation for your kid to keep going, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, we talk a lot about. I shared this a little bit in my talk back in May at the library.
Yeah, which
But
was phenomenal.
thank you. No, I mean, look, it was a teamwork. And for those of you who don't know, Smart Kids and I teamed up, and I spoke and shared my story and some of the work that we've learned on the effectiveness of mentorship at the Westport Library in Connecticut. And if you are looking to learn about or watch that live stream, you can go on YouTube, just look up Jake Sussman Westport Library, and it will be there. So, but one of the points, which is what you're saying, is to find outlets, right? Help your kids find those things that they can lean on when they're uncomfortable. And the summer is a really good time to see that because we're not in school. You know what I mean? Like, you can just observe, like, what are they spending their time doing, right? If it's on video games, ask what video games are they playing, right? And just kind of get involved on that sense. So, do you find that the summer, for parents that reach out to you, is that like a pain point, or like what's the relationship with summer that you see?
Well, I mean, I think it can be hard because it's easy not to be engaged, right, for everyone.
Yeah.
But, I think looking at programs that are like maybe not academic things, like something fun. Like, both my kids used to go to this camp that had like hands-on activities, but all kinds of things. And they would pick like 10 things they would do for the 3 weeks they were there. And that really helped, like, oh, do I like this? Like, they could do improv or jewelry making or robotics or, whatever. It's something like that where they were kind of like forced to explore other things. I think that's good because then that's how you can kind of find out if you're interested in something.
Yeah.
And thank you, Doreen. Like, observing what your kids love to do, like, that's, a good time to do that and try and discover those motivating things for your kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes, right? Because you see what they're doing and you don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. They're scrolling on TikTok. And something that I tell parents a lot is, why don't you scroll with them for a minute?
I was just saying, like, what are they scrolling? What are they?
It's actually, I'm gonna give everyone permission to scroll with your kids. Share the weird, funny video. Like, it's funny. Like, I know, like, sometimes, like, we would sit around the couch and just die in laughter watching the most ridiculous videos. But sometimes
but I would say, like, approach it like not as I want to see what you're doing. And that's the thing. You have to be careful how you approach things with your kids because they'll cut you out. But like, oh, I've had a rough day and I could use something to make me laugh. Can you find something and share it with me or whatever? Or what's something that made you laugh today? You know what I mean? Like something like that. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna help mom, whatever.
It's really funny. There's always these TikTok trends. And like the kids, either there's like a dance or it's like a thing or whatever. And it's really cool to just ask, like, what's the latest trends on TikTok, and then do it together.
Perfect.
There's just like things we can just get creative, but the answers are right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go more into what kind of impact has Smart Kids had? Like, I mean, is that something where you work with people around the country now, right? It's not just in Connecticut.
Yeah, we do in-person programs, but we also do webinars. So then we get people from all over the place. I mean, I've had people from Australia and England, on our webinars, and it's been amazing. And, a lot of times, we're fortunate in Fairfield County. We have a lot of resources, but not everyone has those resources, right? So it's like sharing what you've learned, seeing where you can direct them to help them and wherever they are. And some of that stuff is online, you can find so much out. So the webinars are great. The in-person programs are really great for building that community, because what you talked about, a lot of parents in this feel really isolated. I think that's the number one thing we hear. It's just, I just feel so alone, and like no one else is going through this. It's probably because we don't really like call up a friend and guess what happened today. I found out my kid's dyslexic. So it's hard to find other parents like that. So that's one of the great things about our in-person programs, is finding your parent community.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do a lot of stuff like that, and we're going to have an event in October, and that's in Connecticut at Sherwood Island State Park, and that again is kind of like a community building event. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So
where can people sign up? Is it just go on the website?
Yeah, please go on the website. There's a whole page for programs and events, and that's also another place you can find Jake's video from the website, from the library. It's posted there.
Even better, I'd actually rather you go to Smart Kids' website than YouTube.
Smart Kids, it's featured on our homepage right at the bottom. It's also on our program and events page, and you'll learn a lot more about that too, about our other programs and events, and they'll be posted there. We keep that updated once we have things finalized. But yeah, it's just a lot of information and support. And we're starting a parent mentor program. So if people who aren't local have a question, they can email us through our website, and we have a parent support manager who will reach out and try to help you as best she can. So we're just starting that. Yeah.
That's so wonderful. Yeah. Can you touch a little bit on the your award, your recognition?
Oh my goodness. So we have a program that's called the Fred J. Epstein Youth Achievement Awards. We do this every year. Kids are nominated. It can be by a parent, a sibling, or a teacher, or a coach, anyone like that. And for just being amazing kids, right? Who have had a learning disability, but have achieved things in spite of it, right? And that's one of our kids said that one year, despite this, I've done so much. We just see amazing kids every year. So you met some of them this year at our gala.
It's so cool to be able to be recognized. And this is something where, and I'm a firm believer of this, that the only way our world is going to change and improve is by those who think differently. We actually hold the key to solving our world's most pressing problems. I'm telling you. So if you have a child, or if you know of a student that is doing something amazing, reach out to Smart Kids, because it's about being recognized.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think
we've been doing it for 15 years or something.
Yes. And so we had this last year, I think we had over 80 applications. Amazing. It's so hard to pick.
Yeah.
But so the application process opens every November. Then we pick in January, and the awards are given and presented at our gala in April every year. So we'll put out some information in November on past winners, and actually I think you can still see that on our website for this year. But just some amazing kids who've done, and it's funny you're talking about the creative thinkers. One winner said that one year, you talk about think outside the box, and she's like, I destroy the box. We that's fantastic.
That's awesome. I love that. Just going a little bit back to the summer, I just want to hop around a little bit.
Yes, and that was something else. Go ahead.
You go. What were we going to?
Well, I was going to say something else I saw that it was really interesting, and I forget what it was called, something executive function boot camp, and it's at a local place. There's a lot of that stuff too. And that's not go away camp. That's you go once a week somewhere for 6 weeks and work on organization. It's kind of stuff, Superpower Mentor says, that's important life skills. So that's another thing to work on,
Yeah. When should parents, listen, parents, we're not, I know we're just trying to get through this school year right now, and we're getting there. Okay. But unfortunately, there's another school year coming in August. I know I said the A word. I'm sorry.
It's too soon to talk about.
I know, but just for the sake of allowing that time to decompress.
Yeah.
Okay. When should parents start thinking about the next school year? Is it like mid-July? Is it August? Because we don't want to wait too long, right?
Yeah.
So,
In what aspect? Like how to
well,
help
okay,
your
so
kid get ready, or
let's talk about a transitional period. Like, should we
okay.
start thinking about school? Like, July is kind of like this dead month, but
Yeah.
July can also be a productive month in terms of getting things in place. So, do you
Yeah.
have you heard from parents, or do you have an idea of like when we should start just those
I think,
conversations?
yeah, I think it depends on your child. I mean, if you think your child is going to have a tougher time, if it's a year of a big transition, like maybe it's middle school, high school, like, so maybe you do a little more prep work during that summer. You make sure that there's a quiet place to study and do your homework, and that kind of those spots to work are set up for success. And planners and all of that stuff, like that stuff you can do at home. You don't have to focus so much on, like, you know go, go read the history of the Constitution or what, what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be academics. It could just be like, make sure that your kid is set up for success for this coming year. And then also, if you've got an IP or a 504, make sure, that you're reaching out to anyone you need to reach out to. But that's
Hmm.
something I had to do a lot in the beginning of the year. And this is kind of going to the beginning of the year is, it's not a bad idea to like just reach out to all the teachers. I mean, depending on what grade your kid is in, but like, oh, hey, my son has a 504 or an IEP, and I'm here for you. Do you have any questions? Please let me know if there's anything you're
Ah,
concerned about. Like, be a
mhm.
partner. Don't be an adversary. That
Yes,
seems to
yeah.
get more cooperation.
I love that. Be a partner, don't be an adversary. Let me tell you, if there's a
Yeah.
class of 30, you have at least 30 parents that are going out wanting their teacher to give 100% of the attention to their kid. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
tough. I mean, it's tough. I get it. You
Yeah,
can be really you can have a lot of hurt and anger inside, but it doesn't get you anywhere to vent on the teachers, I
yeah,
found.
yeah. No, well, that's, I think, really important to be able to focus on that relationship,
Yeah,
to say, I'm here to support, right?
exactly.
Allow them to feel like they're in control. I know you're the parent, but to help
Yeah,
build the relationship, to be able to, empower the teacher to say, listen,
yeah,
you're the teacher, I'm the parent, I'm here to support you. How can we have
yeah,
a successful year this year together? What can we
yeah.
do together to make that
And
happen?
that's good to do early on, I found, just to give them a heads up. They may not respond right away or whatever, but then they know, like, oh, that parent's there in case I need them or whatever. And sometimes, I found like they see things that you may not, or vice versa. Like, kids can be one way at school and another way at home, depending on, sometimes they just come home and unload and you're like, wow. But they could be doing amazing things in the classroom that you don't know about because they don't necessarily come home and share it with you. So maybe they would share a story like that. Oh, you should have seen the speech your son gave. It was amazing. I'm like, really? Then I can go and ask about that specific thing with my son and get a dialogue. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm like,
yeah.
how was your day? Fine.
Mm.
You're not going to get anything.
No, you're not. You're not. And I love that
Yeah.
because the way that we ask is important. Instead of saying,
Yeah.
how was your day? It's, what'd you do at recess today?
Yeah.
Right. And then if
Yeah.
you get the I don't know response, I don't know. What do you
I
mean you
don't
don't
know.
know?
I
Right.
know.
So the best response is, what don't you know? Because if you
Oh,
see,
that's right.
it's
Yeah.
about teaching our kids how to think in that way of, if you don't know something, you're either gonna not talk and not want to talk to you, just say I don't know, or you're
Yeah.
going to want to work with the person you're talking to know, so that
Right.
you can answer them.
Right.
It's a really, yeah, it just gets, it's such an easy out.
It
Not
is.
good
I
enough.
like that. That's
Not
great
good enough.
advice.
Um, listen, I had all the tricks in the book when I was a kid, so it's like, now I'm sorry, but it's not to the parents, but to your kids.
Yeah.
you know? Oh
Yeah, yeah.
no.
But that, part of that's normal, that's just the way it is. But yeah, I think having that's kind of like a lot of our programs is we're trying to give parents like a bag of tricks, right?
Yeah.
Here, let's give you some tips on how to get, the response you want, or the action you want, or the behavior you want to enforce, like these kind of things. And that's a lot of what you do too. So
Yeah.
it's a great resource, with some of our program, like the parent conference that we have every year is amazing. And
Oh, it
you
was so
presented.
good.
Oh, you did an amazing job. So yeah, it was like all these different sessions on understanding ADHD, and you did proactive parenting, which was amazing. And then advocating for your struggling reader, or reducing the impact of anxiety, which is important too. All these type of things in one day. And so you can pick and choose like what information you want to hear as a parent. And then also connect. I mean, I know you met a lot of parents that day too, like that reached out, ask you questions after the sessions, and that's a great opportunity.
You know what it is? It's about having a conversation,
Yeah,
because most likely if someone has a question, another person has the same question. And
yeah,
that's why building a community is so important. If you
yeah,
have questions, do not hold it in, because that's only going to do you more harm than good.
yeah,
And by the way, parents, you are the role model, right? So if if you have questions and you don't know what to ask or what to say, you're just going to hold it in. Guess who's going to model that? Your kids.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So, by the way, and this may be controversial, but I'm also like a huge advocate for bringing your kids to conferences. And obviously, depending on age, but I would go as young as 6th grade. And the reason, at least what we've found, is that it allows for constructive feedback in a way that we can develop a plan on the spot, right?
Oh,
So,
that's a
like,
good idea.
so instead of it being like, oh, well, Jake, as speaks out of turn or seems like he's
Yeah,
been a little bit distracted, we can have the conversation right now.
yeah,
Jake, it seems like you've been a little distracted. Like, what can we
yeah,
do to help you focus better? And
yeah.
now it allows me as the student, because it's all about me anyway as a student, right? That's
All
why we're
right,
meeting, is to create
exactly.
an actual plan, and for me to actually learn how to hear constructive feedback.
Well,
You know
and
what I
have
mean?
input
Yeah.
too, right? And if you don't feel like your child is ready to go to that conference, for sure, by all means, have your child write something down, or tell you something, or record a video about how they feel about school. What
Yes.
do they think can help them?
Yes.
What do they need? Like,
Ugh,
bring that to those conferences so
so
that
good.
the people can hear that input directly from your child. And then, because some kids don't want to be there, and they like, there's too many
No,
adults,
it's
then
scary.
yeah,
A
record
hundred
it, make a
percent.
video.
100%. Maybe they can
Yeah,
record, because if maybe they're distracted in class because they're sitting too far in the back, or they're
yeah,
sitting next to a distracting friend, or maybe the teacher's talking too fast,
yeah,
right? So there's ways that we can make it productive. And of course, if you choose to do that with your child, don't go in blind. You got to have a plan. Make sure the teacher knows, so that they're not surprised if
yeah.
they have
You don't
a
want to
whole.
surprise a
You
teacher.
do not want to surprise a teacher on parent-teacher conferences.
Yeah,
But again, just some interesting things just to keep in mind. Now,
yeah.
Christine, just tell me, as like some of our final question here, what's just some departing advice for parents that are just finding out about their kid with learning difference, or maybe they're struggling a little bit right now?
Yeah.
Um,
We
yeah,
talk
what?
about this a lot, and I think what it all comes down to is trust your gut. Like, your kid. And if you're hearing something that doesn't sound right, try to dig deeper into that. Like, well, what do you mean by what you're telling me? Or, get some outside advice sometimes. Sometimes you need to have an advocate. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can do it yourself. But I would say trust your gut, because a lot of times, especially in the beginning, people are going to be telling you a lot of things, and not all of them feel right. Like, that doesn't quite fit. I don't understand that. Like, then dig into that, because sometimes it's easier to just go, maybe I don't know, right? But you do. You're that first line, right? Like, your kid. So just trust that instinct.
Ooh, that's wonderful. Listen, parents, if you have any questions, I know a lot of you watch this after dinner. So if you're watching this and if you have any questions for Christine or for myself, you can either ask it in the comments here. You can reach out to Smart Kids. The link is in the comments section. They are such a great organization, and I highly recommend reaching out to them, looking on their website, signing up for their newsletter. They are really one of the most accurate, reputable organizations that I've found so far on learning differences and parent advice and advocating. So they're really wonderful. But Christine, thank you so much for hopping on here.
Ah, thank you so
This
much,
was
Jake, and
so
for
nice.
all you're doing. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Superpower Mentors rocks. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Woo! Yes, and I'll see everyone next week. Have a wonderful rest of your week, okay? Bye.